In this video, we're going to answer some questions and provide feedback on a couple of messages contributed in the comment section of this specific presentation. All references, including this one I'm showing you right now, will be made available in the description. Let's start off with a query from Jakeen6648, who would like to know if the former outsider still has residual powers after being freed from the void, and if he was normal like everyone else prior to his transformation, while someone else presided as a god. There is not much data about him prior to becoming the outsider, other than the information found on a note in Dishonored 2 titled Born in the Month of Darkness. All we know is that he was a runaway beggar with an abusive father and a deceased mother. So I have no reason to assume that he was anything other than normal. I do suspect, however, that he's one of those people who have a natural strong connection to the void. In the first paragraph of the note, it says the believers didn't just pick up any available target. Instead, they were looking for someone specifically with ponderous and esoteric clues. Coincidentally, this is the same practice done by the Abbey of the Everyman in recruiting new members, which I talked about in detail on this video. As for the gods prior to him, there were possibly two of them. One is attached to Billy Lurk's arm and eye. The other is whoever's the owner of the giant eye found in Shinderi Peak. This leads me to suspect that the troubles their world is facing as of the third book have happened before. The ancient believers/cult made the outsider because the previous god died. But that's just a hypothesis of mine at this point. Now, when it comes to void powers, based on my observation, it's either the person has it or they don't. There's no in between. The best evidence for that is the music box. When the marked protagonist is within its sphere of influence, they are completely cut off from the source. There's no trace connection to it whatsoever. So the same rule probably applies to him. This brings us to a comment from Mikey Brankin 6709, who suggested that the third game would probably revolve around a witch hunt for groups of people who would try to install a new god. At which Jason Durgan 7108 agrees, but also ponders on the probability that the void may have a mind of its own. I have no information that suggests the void shows any sign of sentience. I think that part is left up to the god that occupies it. I do agree with the other theory, however. In the Dishonored 3 video, I suggested that if the troubles plaguing people escalate, it might result in civil unrest and a massive geopolitical crisis. But the origin of the problem is magical, so it's possible that the game might revolve around hunting cults. I mean, if a bunch of desperate, ailing people got together, especially longtime residents of Dunwall, it's not going to take long for some of them to realize that, hey, isn't this city built on top of an ancient civilization? Let's go inside the sewers and see if we can find an entrance to the ruins. So yes, that's certainly plausible. Next we have Tyron McGrath 6871, who asks if powers only exist if there's a god overseeing the void. In most cases, yes, but I would like to clarify that the source of power is the void itself, so it has always been there, but harnessing it is the real problem, and that's where the outsider used to come in. The mark he gave out acted as a conduit. Other than that, the only way to gain powers is through bone charms, albeit very dangerous. There are, however, some very rare occasions that normal people were able to harness it. One is from charms made by the corroded man using human bones. He gave them out for his followers to use, but they were transitory, and the maker himself is also gone. Second is by a character named Old Broken Tom, a villain in the 2016 Dishonored comics, who had such items built into his suit. Those are the only ones I know of. Everyone else who tried messing with it lost their minds and perished in a horrific manner. Up next, here's a comment from Bad Acid 8685, a frequent commenter in our channel. Shout out to you, buddy. He says he lost interest in Dishonored when they got rid of the outsider. I already replied to this, but I would just like to add that yes, he is indeed interesting. especially in the first game where he was portrayed as a neutral but curious and observant god who gives interesting people powers just to see what they'll do with it. Then in Dishonored 2, as mentioned in the note earlier, they started giving him a human background. Was that a good idea? I'm still on the fence with that one. As a side note, we have a comment from John Smith, EF2RN, and S. Kotov, who both said Prey is a great game. I completely agree. I think it's a fantastic title in its own merit. Arkane Austin created something really wonderful there. I can't say the same for Redfall though, which brings us to the third paragraph of John's comment, where he says he's uncertain if he wants to see a Dishonored 3 game, given the current state of Arkane, where he mentions the lukewarm reception to Deathloop and the troubles that plague Redfall. I share John's sense of skepticism. In addition, I also noticed in Death of the Outsider and in the second plus third book that there were a lot of new elements added into the world. So the possibility of story flaws, loopholes, and contradictions rise significantly. Just like in game design, the more complex it is, the higher the chances for problems to appear. So the feeling of apprehension is well justified. But I do wish the people in Arkane the best, especially the Austin team. I watched Angry Joe's review of Redfall and oh boy, the problem is not just on a technical level. The game design itself seems half-baked. I really hope they manage to untangle the mess they got themselves into. In any case, those are the questions and comments that I have for you today. Usually I would just respond in the reply box itself, but if similar messages appear in the future where thought expansion is possible, I'll make sure to do another video similar to this one. Thank you for watching.